Hey guys, it's Traffic Cones and we are back with another video. As you can see, we got garage lights. So I ended up ordering a box of Amazon garage lights. It came with a total of 8. I got these installed. I wired them myself. I'm gonna turn the camera to give you guys a view of what it looks like. First, you can really see the progression. I added some like mood lights, essentially showing us at night I have like lights that go around. It's just a different brightness. And then I have these for my shop working lights. Honestly, they're really helpful, really good at night. I also changed this bulb too so it can match the light bulb color. But we do have garage lights for the garage. It brightens this place up so much now. But the reason we are shooting this video today is because we essentially have a whole bunch of parts from Summit. I'm gonna turn the camera here. We have a whole bunch of parts from Summit for the assembly of the motor. So I'm gonna give you guys a view of everything that we do have and what we'll be getting done in this video today. This video today I have essentially just a lot of OEM replacements. So these are engine bearings, these are the main bearings. They sit on the main caps. The next thing I have is cam bearings. Oh, I'm missing one, there we go. So essentially I have a fresh set of replacement cam bearings. The next set is, I think these are Hastings, yeah. Hastings piston rings, got to get that ring gap. Went to Harbor Freight and got a couple of more tools. Essentially, there are a lot of things that are necessary. So the Pittsburgh ring compressor, essentially when you put the rings and everything on there, you have to compress them to slide them into that block because essentially the piston would just sit and then the rings stick out just a bit more. Got to make sure I get that ring gap for boost. We did get some more things. Essentially, I didn't have a bore dial gauge. What I'll be using in replacement of that is a telescopic gauge. Essentially, it's the same thing, just without the dial, but I'll just have to do more measurements. Essentially, you would just take this. I'm gonna just give you guys a quick glimpse of what it is. I've been playing with this for this week, trying to clean up the block and everything. Make sure everything's perfect. Oh shit, I'm got scared. But essentially, you squeeze this down and like you just place it in the piston. It won't scratch the walls or anything. Hold on. But I essentially would just do this for the main bearings. Here we go. All right, so essentially you place it in there, move it back and forth a bit, lock it in place. From there, that measures the size of the bore. Right, so this measures the size of the bore. Make sure it's straight. Essentially, you'll do multiple measurements of this. Then I'll pull this back out. Come over here to our Harbor Freight digital gauge. This reads to the thousandths. So obviously, if you know what a 6-liter bore is, it's a 4-inch bore. Hold on, let me get one hand. And so look, essentially this is about a 4-inch, 0.295. I'm showing this with one hand, but you get the gist. And then essentially, it's basically state that that is a 4-inch bore. You essentially would do that for every single bore of all 8. But you pretty much want to do it to make sure that you have proper main bearing clearances, and that's something that we're going over in today's video. So essentially, I'm gonna just build the entire short block. I'm gonna do main bearings, rod bearings, and rings. Hopefully we can get that all done today. But I am gonna be watching a YouTube video while making this YouTube video on how to do it. But essentially you want to make sure you get everything measured. So I'm gonna be throwing the main caps on. One thing that we were doing is getting the main caps clean this week. If you know what these look like, essentially right now I'm having a little bit of flash rust. I gotta throw some WD-40 on there. But I'm gonna clean this up one more time. If you remember what these look like originally, I'm gonna try to see if I can drop a picture. But here we go, actually. But yeah, these look pretty clean. I cleaned that and I cleaned where the bearing would sit. So essentially we are ready to put this bad boy together. Get some measurements. I've measured the cam bores so I can make sure that I do have the right pistons. Essentially I have a first gen 6-liter. I ended up getting that from measuring the bore size after I got the cam bearings, but I did essentially get all the numbers off of the block to verify what block I have. What we're gonna do is get directly into it. I'm gonna throw the main bearings on, and I'm gonna record what? I'm going to record me just installing the main bearings with no bearings, so I can take those measurements, and then I'm gonna throw the main bearings on there, take that measurement, and make sure that it works with the like the manufacturer's spec of like essentially like it's like pretty just matching up the engine building process. Like looking at OEMs, make sure these measurements are the same, have the same clearance and tolerances, because every single thousandths matter, especially with the oil passages and stuff like that. You don't want to have not enough oil passage in the motor. Boom.
Honestly, and with the power of editing, you really can see how fast I built this motor. But that's not real. Essentially what I'm doing here is just putting the caps on. Eventually you'll see me measure the bores, and I'll show them on the screen. But I used a rubber mallet. That's something I ended up getting from Harbor Freight. I put these on. As you can see, this is probably like the first time I've ever actually put the block together. This is the first time I've ever put a block together. And what's crazy to me is like this is my first time, like this is like my first modification to a car. Like this is probably like my second. The first mod was a rear sway bar. That wasn't too hard. And then I did like wheels and then side skirts and tail lights, but I don't really count those as mods. Those are like cosmetics. But this is like my first modification to a car, a full V6 to V8 swap build, where I pulled a motor from the junkyard, which is absolutely insane to me. But essentially the inside, I'm jumping around a lot, but the inside cam bearing bolt size are 13 mil. The outside are 15. You would just torque them to 15 pounds, and then you have to use like the degree tool and like get them to a certain degree. It was pretty simple in my opinion. I'm happy that the thing was pretty clean. I spent a lot of time this week just cleaning up the main caps, because I'll be touching those a lot. And one thing with the engine building process, you don't really want to play around with dirty material. It kind of sucks, and like it transfers a lot to everything, especially when you're trying to like work with clearances of the thousandths. So cleanliness is very, very important. Another thing, I recommend, if you were to do this, if I had to do this over again, I would probably buy a whole ton of WD-40 and brake cleaner. Those are really, really important for like just staying clean while doing this. But yeah, so I'm making a hella progress on this block. All right, so now here you see me using the telescoping gauge live in the flesh. As I mentioned, I didn't torque these down. I really just tightened them just a little bit. But this is pretty much just to make sure that the bores of the cam bearings were, the main bearings were round. There's a lot of things that I didn't do, but here I have the digital caliper gauge that measures to the thousandths, and I'm just verifying all of the main cap bore size. So if you can see what I have 2.7485 inches. That was pretty consistent across the block. I kind of rounded that to 2.75, which is like about spec. I'd say like spec is like 2.751 according to Google. So I'm pretty confident in the block that the rotating is pretty much straight and lined. Same with the crankshaft. I did the crankshaft off camera. There's a lot of things that I did off camera that I did this week that I didn't even document. But here, like I said, I'm just measuring, making sure it's consistent, showing you guys, and also for my own documentation. But yeah, here we go. This one is 2.75. So yeah, if I was off by 0.005, which is basically what, half a thousandths, I'm pretty good with that, honestly. Especially across the block, like I'm pretty confident with that. Afterwards, you seen that I did the main bearings clearance, and I got 0.0015, which also made me confident in my numbers. The only one that I was a little bit skeptical about was number three in the block. That one, when I did the main caps clearance, it was a tad bit off of the 0.0015, but I let it slide, honestly. I think it's fine. My measurement could be off a tad, but it's all good.
So for the first part that you just saw, I essentially was measuring the main bearings bore diameter. So what I ended up doing was just putting them on with no bearings inside. I put them on with no bearings inside. I didn't torque them all the way, but I tightened them. Essentially the torque would probably just compress it just a tad bit more, but I tightened them evenly. What ended up happening was I ended up getting a 2.75 across all. Essentially I would get like 2.495, but when I wiggled the telescoping tool, the telescoping gauge, just a little bit, essentially I would get to 7.5. Essentially you want 7.51. I believe if I was to torque it just a little bit more, I'd probably get 7.51 across all of them. But the fact that I didn't torque them, I got 7.5. That works with me. 2.75. Essentially you want 2.751, but it all works for me. I'm pretty confident that everything is good to go. Essentially what I am gonna do right now is go ahead and slap the bearings in them, and I'm gonna clean up the crankshaft and drop the crankshaft in there. So essentially the next clip that you'll see is a crankshaft sitting inside the block. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that for you guys. So what I'm about to do here is prep the rings, prep the bearings using acetone and a shop towels. Essentially we're just going to clean these, as I mentioned, and we're gonna clean the crankshaft, throw it in there, throw a plastic gauge in there, get the clearance, measure that, and make sure it's within our range. And I'm gonna give you guys a quick snippet and a quick clip of us just cleaning it real quick.
But no, playing the video back, honestly, you don't realize how much the power of editing takes away from how much time I actually sat there and put in, just verifying a lot of things, making sure things are clean, going in and doing them for the first time, spending times on Google, trying to make sure everything is correct. But what I end up doing here, I was a bit lost with how to do them. But essentially you have, like, if you look to the left, you look to the right, there's a side with hose and there's a side without hose. The side with hose goes on the block itself, and the side without hose go on the main caps. It's pretty easy. There's this little pin. There's like this little pin that sits directly in it. So it's really not hard to figure out at all, to tell you the truth. You would just stick it in and make sure they're flush. But I'm using the acetone to remove whatever oil comes in the packaging, because this is metal. Sometimes you don't know how long this sits on the shelf, so they put some essentially they do the same thing with the with brakes. So brakes are sitting there in bulk a lot of the times, just sitting on shelves until someone orders them. But they have a protective coating on them so they don't rust while sitting there. But essentially just do this process. Cleaning is very, very important in this process. Make sure you have an air compressor and WD-40. Acetone helps clean and remove stuff, but the WD-40, I guess it's heavy enough that whatever is sitting on there would actually sit off, in my opinion, actually gets removed. I don't know where I went. I think I went to go here. I wanted to go grab the crankshaft because I wanted to clean the crankshaft next. But here it goes. Cleaning the crank. I polished the crank myself all at home. I used the shoelace sandpaper and extremely fine grit. So I'm using 1,000, 1,500, and then 2,000. I got a really, really good deal on all three. It was $3. Essentially, they were trying to get them out of the AutoZone store. So I came in really clutch. What are the odds? But I have a 52 tooth reluctor wheel. This might be the best type of crankshaft in my opinion if you're doing an engine build. But I'm coming back in now.
So now we have the bearings clean. We have the crank clean. I clean those. I clean this. I'm gonna give it one more pass of air. I'll throw the plastic gauge in there. I gotta make sure I remember how to put these in. I believe that the sides with the holes are the tops, and the flat side is where the main bearing sits at, because obviously there's no passages. I just have to make sure I get the orientation of this correct. But there are, essentially, the way you match this up, there's these little notches. So 1 notch, 2 notch, 3 notch, 4 notch, 5. Essentially, you just stick them in there, stick them in there, stick them in there, stick them there. This is the part where I have to do this again. Essentially, I'm gonna put them in, no assembly loop. throw the crankshaft in there, torque it to spec. I gotta download this app to get the angle of when I torque it, and then from there, we remove the main caps, check the plastic gauge, and make sure that there's proper clearance. I seen this one guy's video. He had an LS1, which is basically a 5.7 LS, I believe. But I think he had a 0.0. He basically had 1/1000th and a half, I believe, of clearance. And I think that's what I might shoot for. I'm gonna verify and check and see and give you guys an update on that. But from there, throw the cam bearings, crank, the other end, and you're pretty much good to go. But this one is the one that's different, which is the extremely big one. One thing I like about these King's bearings is that they essentially have more holes for oil passage, which is really, really good, especially for what we're gonna be doing. But essentially I just gotta make sure these are going correctly, but that shouldn't be too hard. Get the compressor on and get the cleaning and throw them in there. Get this off camera. I gotta get a 13mm socket from the store that fits on the 1/2 inch so I can torque these. But essentially I put the plastic gauge in every single one of these under the main caps. Essentially I gotta torque these down to spec. I'm gonna use this plastic gauge, and hopefully that we are in range. The range that we're shooting for is, I gotta check again as I mentioned, but I'm shooting for this right here, 0.015. But I'm gonna verify and see what I need. But I'm gonna go to the store, come back, and I'll show you guys me just torquing and the torquing sequence. But it goes from inner to outer, and then you cross. So like, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then you start from the outside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But, and then, yeah, that'll be the process. Then I'll remove the caps, check the bearing, like check the clearance. Then I gotta do this all over again, right? I do this all over again and put assembly lube, and then we can get started with the pistons. Here, essentially I already torqued everything down to spec. So we would just verify from this cap right here. We could verify from the cap or from the crankshaft itself. Either or, it'd be the same. Thickness that I'm shooting for is essentially between 0.15 and not 0.15, 0.0015 and 0.002. So I gotta find that on the plastic gauge. I think that's on this side here. So yeah, I want to be able to fill in this gap right here. And then, so with that, essentially when I put it at the gap, as you see, hold on. This is equal size as the 0.0015. Like you see the white thing on the plastic gauge and the thickness of the green. So this basically says that like both of these are the same exact size. So this bearing has a clearance of 0.015. Essentially, I'm gonna go ahead and do that to the rest of them, and from there we can actually assemble the engine. But this is essentially how you verify that, yeah, the main bearing has proper clearance. I have 0.15 thousandths of clearance. I googled it, and essentially it says for performance engines, you would want to be between 0.0015 and 0.002. And we are between. So I'm gonna continue with this. Yeah, so 0.002 is literally the one right under. But we are perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe this off and wipe the crank and then put this back on. But essentially I'm gonna have to remove the crank to apply assembly lube to the crank and the bearing, the cam bearings. But yeah, I'm gonna give you guys an update when it's time for the pistons. But yeah, that's pretty much how you check this. Now that we have all the main bearings, clearance, and everything works perfectly fine, I took a picture. Essentially what I ended up doing is just measuring it off of the caps, because they're supposed to translate equally to both, but I ended up getting 0.0015, which is perfect and ideal for essentially performance engines. The next thing I'll be doing is installing cam bearings. What I end up doing now is just putting WD-40 in all of them. So what I'm gonna do is start from the back, work my way forward. These are numbered and they tell you what positions and what numbers. So 18, 14, essentially, they're already in the box in a perfect order. But the last one here is 18, 14. But essentially 1, 5, 2, 4, and 3 are like the order. So even if I turn the box back or forward, as long as I pick up from that order, it's all good. But the way you want to do it is make sure that the oil passage, so what you want to do is make sure the oil passage and the thing itself are like this leads to the hole. Both of these holes are the same size, so there's really no perfect orientation, but you see there's 2 holes, even though this only has 1. What I'm gonna try to do is obviously try to just get this to line up perfectly, like get that to line up perfectly with the hole. What I've seen many people do was mark it to make sure that they're like entering in straight, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just mark it with a Sharpie marker or probably something, I don't know, but I'll figure something out. I'm gonna mark them and show you guys how to install cam bearings also. Obviously, before you do anything, first thing you're gonna do is clean them. So what I'm gonna do is grab the WD-40, spray them in WD-40 and clean them with the shop towel. And then the tools that you're gonna need, essentially this is like a slide hammer. This is a slide hammer specifically for cam bearings for the LS engine. What I'll be doing is basically like you insert it through the bores, through the cam bores, and you set this in from the front and just make sure it's equal. But I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how to do one, and that will translate to the rest.
But here I am trying to show the process of how to install the cam bearings. I didn't record the first one. The first one was honestly relatively sweet, in my opinion. The second one, I ended up messing up on it. So I ended up having to push it all the way through and do the process all over again. Because the process is like I said, there's 2 holes. There's 2 holes in it, and you have to like make sure that the hole lines up with the hole that's on the block. Because if not, you're basically gonna block the passage of oil for it. So I'm here trying to look in through the hole and verify, because when you're swinging it, like the thing is with the cam bearing tool, you have to put it in correctly, but like you have to make sure that you're also able to like stick something in there to verify that like the hole is like good. But and also as you're hitting it, you want to make sure that it's even on both sides. So like you don't want to hit it all the way in too much and then the front is like empty, but you just want it to hit like down the middle is what I'm saying. So if you can get it down the middle, that's perfect. But here is like the process of trying to do the cam bearing. So you have the slide hammer in it. This is a specific LS cam bearing tool. What I'm trying to do is really look in, but it's like that one was really hard because I have the engine stand thing in the back and I have it against the wall. So trying to get that is like, I ain't gonna lie, it's real difficult. But I figured out how to I honestly figured out how to do how to really use the tool once I got to bearing number 2. So I practically was already done. And then the first one was super easy. I ended up just using it like a slide hammer, and just torpedoing the slide tool into the hammer, and then it was pretty simple. But yeah, so here I'm really trying to get the line up, even though I couldn't. But it's super hard to see. Like number 4 for me was extremely hard. Number 3 was super simple because you can look through the front and the back. But number 4 was super hard. The 2 ends, like 1 and 5, are super easy, and so is number 2 because you're closer to the front now, and there's just so much light. But that was just my experience. So now here is me struggling. Honestly, I don't realize I don't know. I feel like when I got to number 2, I realized I guess I was just using the tool wrong, because this thing was killing me. I promise you. I don't know if I was probably not supposed to hold it where I was holding it from, but I was trying to hold it from there's like this slide portion of it. I was trying to hold it from the slide portion and then just hit it with the rubber mallet. But it was not moving. It was not moving for some odd reason. And then I ended up figuring out, as I mentioned earlier, at board number 2, figuring out how to use it. lastly, I appreciate you guys for watching. We got a lot of work done today. We did the main bearings, the cam bearings. And last but not least, we have to do the rod bearings and the ring gap. Essentially, the short block will be completed. Tune in to the next video. I should have this video. I'm gonna try to get this video out as soon as possible. But next week, I'll drop a video on the ring gaps. What's my plan and objectives, and why I'm gapping my rims to what I am, and showing you guys the process of ring gaps. What I will do, I'm not gonna just base it off of one bore. I'm gonna go and do every single bore and gap those like differently in a sense, like because some people they like to do it the fast way. But more of the story. Appreciate you guys for watching. Tune in to the next video. I'm excited. I'm ready to get this engine running and hearing it. I say shout out to Summit, even though I'm not getting paid by Summit. They're coming in clutch with the parts, fast delivery, good service in my opinion. But I'm out. Boop.